Yeah, it's like where are people going to go? I know it's just so habitual. I'm so guilty. I'll go to my phone and go right to TikTok. And I feel like if I have my phone in my hand, I'm going to go somewhere. And it's where is that somewhere going to be? Is it going to be Facebook? Is it going to be, part of the metaverse somewhere? Or is it going to be one of these new apps where people are going? And it's just such a tight pulse to keep on. And yeah, make sure like we're there wherever that place that people are going to open is going to be.
I know. I feel like the news is changing every single day with what's going to
Mhm.
happen with TikTok. Um, I don't know.
I
Yeah,
think,
it's such a source for so much shopping, news, what
right.
music is trending. Like, how are we going to get our top hits?
I think that I think we're seeing right now like a lot of influencers moving to like YouTube Shorts and like Instagram Reels, and like is that gonna then pick up even if TikTok stays around? It's just so interesting to see what all the movement that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much of that content is going to be like recycled from TikTok and how much is going to be like new for those platforms? I just wonder how much is because there's so much viral content that you see, oh, that was coming from TikTok and yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
guilty of always receiving the information like days later because I'm on Instagram.
Real. Yeah.
I just want to do a quick welcome to everyone that's joining our webinar. If you're here today for how to maximize your paid sales in 2025. And we're absolutely thrilled to have you join us as we dive into how AI platforms and advanced targeting strategies are shaping the future of paid advertising. Please let us know where you're tuning in from in the chat. We'd love to hear, where you're from, what you're excited to learn about. And yeah, please take it away in the chat. Laura, what were you saying?
Oh yeah, I was just saying like on Reels, it always feels like a little bit of a delay from TikTok, but that content's so relevant. Also, Rachel, I saw you're in Chicago. I'm gonna wave to you across the lake. I'm Michigan, right on Lake Michigan, outside of Grand Rapids. So, love a good day trip to Chicago.
Wow, I see a lot of people. We've got Victor,
Grand Rapids, Kelsey, hi. I'll get technical. I'm in Holland.
Miami, Buffalo, New York. I'm from upstate New York, Anne Marie, Austin, San Diego, Hershey, PA. Awesome. Well, I think I can get started in introducing our speakers. So, we've got Caitlin Kerr. She is our social media manager here at Agile, and she specializes in performance-driven strategies across platforms like Meta, Instagram, and what we were just talking about, TikTok. We've got Logan Durant, the VP of Paid Media Strategy at Agile. He helps develop high-performing search marketing and Google Shopping campaigns for some of our top clients. And finally, Laura Peterson, our managing director at Agile. She is a Google certified expert in e-commerce and paid media, crafting data-driven strategies that deliver maximum ROI for our clients. So thank you for joining us today, speakers. And I want to just cover very quickly our agenda. So our three experts will cover how AI and automation are transforming paid ad strategies, adapting to new privacy changes and their impact on campaigns, emerging platforms and features to watch in 2025, practical budgeting strategies for a shifting ad landscape, and then we'll also share a quick win with you to help you optimize your ads immediately. And then finally, at the end of the webinar, we'll connect all of these dots for you and we'll share the slides via email in case there's something that you missed. Before we jump in, I want to launch a quick poll. We'd love to know what your biggest challenge with paid advertising is. Is it A, keeping up with platform changes? B, allocating budgets effectively? Do we have the poll launched? C, tracking and measuring ROI? D, creating ads that convert? Or other, please share in the chat. And let me check on that poll. While I'm checking on the poll, Caitlin, Laura, and Logan, what do you often hear are biggest challenges? Oh, and there we've got the poll.
Yeah, it's really been a lot. I think in the past couple of years, people have had trouble driving performance and creating the ads that really convert. But then there's like this cross-channel budget piece, which if you're in more than one marketing channel, which most people are these days, optimizing the budgets across those channels is a lot harder than you'd think to kind of nail. So I'm interested to see what people put here.
Yeah, it looks like creating ads that convert, of course. Tracking and measuring ROI is a big one, which is incredibly important. Would one of you like to
Yeah,
speak to why tracking and measuring ROI is so important?
for sure. I mean, we're going to get to it in the following slides, but basically, a lot of the tracking is going to fuel the AI-driven algorithms. So the better data you can feed them, the better results you're going to get with your advertising. So that is also, so these are all too vital.
Yeah.
Totally. I would say the wrench with tracking too is always like the why, right? Why isn't this working? And that can
Yeah,
get so technical.
that's great. So the ads are pretty evenly spread, creating ads that convert one out at 50%, but we allow people to select multiple. So clearly people are selecting multiple of these, which is great because we're going to hit on basically all of these in this presentation.
All right, great. So I will pass it on to Caitlin.
Awesome. Yeah, so really, I think the first thing we really want to do is kind of go through a quick win. So what can you take with you this week to boost your Meta account performance? And let's talk through kind of that quick win before we explore these 2025 paid advertising, the landscape there. So what's that quick win that we have? It's two words, audience exclusions. So one thing that I see a lot of with advertisers when I'm auditing accounts is that you're targeting cold users, but you're forgetting or you just don't think about excluding those site visitors from your awareness campaigns or from your remarketing campaigns where you're also creating an audience in a different campaign. So when you don't exclude site visitors, what happens is you have that overlap in audience targeting, which then causes your costs to go up for no reason at all. So one thing that we found is that with properly excluding your site visitors, you see a reduced cost by about 25%, which is pretty big. So my big tip here for moving forward is to be mindful when you're building your audiences out and ask yourself, am I targeting the same audience in another campaign? If your answer is yes, then you definitely need to exclude them. So if we go to the next slide, I want to talk through kind of, okay, so I need to exclude these audiences from Meta. How do I do that? So super, super simple. First, you want to create the audience using your pixel data, and you also want to utilize email segments. So whether that's through syncing over with Klaviyo with your email segments or uploading your email segments. Next, what you want to do is navigate to your ad set. And then from there, you're going to add your audience or audiences to your exclusion. One tip I have for you guys here on this last little tidbit is Meta's making it harder and harder for advertisers to find the exclusion in your ad sets. So make sure you're clicking down on all the drop downs in your ad set because they're kind of hiding it. So don't overlook that. Make sure you're excluding your audiences. Super simple and quick thing to do with your campaigns this week. So if we go to the next one, okay. So we have that quick win on audience exclusions that you can, implement in your Meta account as soon as this week. But let's now dive into those 2025 paid advertising, the landscape and what we're seeing and what the trends are going to be coming and shaping the future. So there's three trends that we've really outlined here and we'll really dive into are attribution, AI, and privacy. So three big hot topics. So first one, looking at attribution. So one thing that we see is that there's a big rise of cross-channel marketing and really accurately attributing those conversions to specific paid channels has become really, really complex. I mean, we hear this all the time with our clients is that, okay, how do I know which platform this is coming from? I know as a consumer myself, we are very guilty of seeing, you know, a meta ad for a brand, then a few days later or weeks later, you remember the brand, then you search for it, and then you make that purchase. So then the question comes to which touch point gets that value on that conversion. So that's an area that is really, you know, a big topic. And pinpointing that true source of revenue will be at the forefront of paid advertising this year, and it has continuously been kind of the big topic over even the last year and few years. The next big topic that I hear a lot of is just AI. I mean, we're hearing it all the time. Outside of just looking at paid advertising, AI is a big thing. And so with that, it's really finding that balance of using it in paid ads. So, for example, in August, I think it was 2022, Meta came out with the Advantage Plus shopping campaign. Now, over 3 years later, it's finding that balance of using the existing campaigns with ASC Plus. That's become such a challenge for advertisers. So it's something we'll dive into today and talking about some common pitfalls with utilizing Advantage Plus shopping campaigns and how can we address those. And I know another big player in AI is with Google's Performance Max. So Laura, definitely take it away. Let's hear about Performance Max.
Oh yeah, Performance Max. Can you believe it's been since 2022, December 2022? I think the tail end of November, Performance Max was rolling out, and it's come a long way since then. Initially it was this black box, and we were like very afraid to release the purse strings of standard shopping and hand that to Performance Max where we had no controls. And outside of 2024, Google implemented over 15 different improvements and updates to Performance Max, which has given us so much more flexibility with what we can do with the campaign type and so much more that we can see. So I'm so excited to show you all some of the updates that we have at Agile and go deeper into some of those data points that we can see, exclusions that we can now do with Performance Max, and the understandings underneath where we can actually see, okay, where is this campaign serving? How can I have more control in an environment that, especially when it first rolled out, we felt like there was no control over, and how well it pairs into that holistic strategy, especially with your side, Caitlin. And then Morgan, this kind of ties into your question in the chat, right? Looking at the privacy laws and the future of cookies, what can we do to make sure we are maximizing every opportunity to get in front of that right consumer? And what does that involve as those privacy laws are changing? So we are going to get into that a bit today and talk about a lot of the opportunities with targeting lookalike audiences and just maximizing all of those potentials.
And before we move to the next slide, I just want to quickly ask anyone that's raising their hand to also drop their questions in the Q&A so we can get to them and we don't miss them. Thank you.
All right. Great intro, Laura and Kaylin. Now we're going to get to the really interesting topic of budget optimization. So the big question, I think, in today's paid media landscape is how do you optimize budgets effectively across these channels? So I want to introduce several tactics and frameworks to everyone that we use at Agile when we think about budget optimization. First one is sort of our holistic framework that our agency adheres to, and every tactic that we pursue is kind of related to this framework. It's called the virtuous activity cycle, the marketing cycle that includes activities from awareness to consideration to conversion, loyalty, and advocacy. And like I said, every tactic that we pursue is aligned to one of these activities. We believe that the more traffic and the more activity we can stimulate in each of these areas, the faster this flywheel will spin and the faster your business will grow. The reason why we use this framework is because with the sort of explosion of paid channels over the last 5 to 7 years, we found that it wasn't enough to create just a Google ad strategy, or just a Meta strategy, or just a Pinterest strategy. We found that within these channels, there are so many different parts of the customer journey that you can target: awareness to consideration, new customers, existing customers. So we decided to break down those silos between the channels and start to create not only channel strategy, but strategies around awareness cross channels. So what's my awareness strategy across Google Ads and Meta and Pinterest and TikTok? What's my consideration strategy? When we do this, we have reporting that will show you in an upcoming slide that actually allows you to compare the awareness efforts across your paid channels and make decisions faster across where you put your ad dollars. So it's not just looking at the entirety of Google, but look at the chunk that's targeting awareness, compare that to Meta, and look at the campaigns that are targeting awareness there. Which one is doing better? And we can start to optimize budgets that way. Go to the next slide. One of the other ways that we optimize budgets is through our playbooks. And we have playbooks on several different types of e-commerce merchants, but the big two that we think about is your business in the demand capture business or the demand generation business? So let me describe these to you. In demand capture, searches for your product or category manifest regularly. Buyers often search for your products when they need them, and buyers can easily be persuaded by images, videos, reviews, price point, the marketing, etc. In demand capture, search is going to be your primary channel. So think like Google Ads. If you're a demand capture company, you're probably seeing more ad spend in Google Ads or have a bigger budget in Google Ads than you do in Meta. Demand generation, on the other hand, there could be several different types of companies that fit into demand generation. You could be part of a lifestyle category where the brand is really important and the purchases are based on a desire or an impulse. Or it could be a novelty or problem-solving product that doesn't have existing search volume. Or it could be something where customers have an extreme brand bias, something that could be related to health, reliability, something like supplements or an insurance company, things like that. But this is where you really have to go out and use social platforms like Meta to create demand. And based on which one you are, there are dramatically different recommendations that we would make as an agency in terms of your investment strategy in awareness, consideration, conversion, etc. So what we'd like to do now is launch another poll for you all to ask whether your business is primarily based on demand capture or demand generation.
Logan, while we're launching the poll, there's a really interesting question in the chat from Daniela, and she's asking, can you be a little bit of both? Can you both be demand capture and demand generation? Can you answer that for her, please?
Yeah, so everyone is naturally, I think, going to have a component of both. Like there will be, if you are demand generation, there's going to be some searches that you're showing up for on Google Ads, and then vice versa. Like if you're mostly a search-based demand capture business, you're going to have some success on Meta prospecting out to cold audiences. But there's usually one primary one that starts to become very obvious with where the ad spend is flowing in these accounts and how your customers are behaving.
Thank you. All right, I think we could probably end the poll now. It looks like we've got quite a few respondents. Logan, do you want to take this one?
All right. Yeah, 60/40. This is great. This is usually what we see. We basically see anywhere between 60 and 70% of merchants, especially in e-commerce. So if there's any non-e-commerce people here, that could be probably pushing this demand generation piece up a little bit. But usually what we see in e-commerce is that about 70% of the businesses, 60 to 70, are demand capture, which means like Google search first, and then 30 to 40 are demand generation, which means Meta first or social channels first. So this is great. So we'll talk to both of these, and we'll talk about how the investment strategy really differs compared to which type of business you are. Great. So one of the other things that we do to determine what that investment strategy should be is what the customer lifetime value is for your business. And this is that loyalty component of our marketing cycle. So for some businesses, it's sort of like a one and done purchase. If it's a product that you buy once and it lasts forever, you don't have a large catalog, you're not going to have a large lifetime value. But if you sell supplements or clothing, you're going to have a lifetime value component. So we've curated a lifetime value report, cultivated it, and it not only tells you how many new customers you gain in a month and what the CPA was for those customers, but it's also showing you the value of a customer over time and showing you the value of a customer at month 0, month 3, month 6, month 12, all the way. So you can start to set reasonable CPA targets based on that value. So if the value increases significantly from month 0 to month 6, we may recommend a more aggressive CPA. But if it's sort of like a flat line, we may want to just really get profitability out of that first purchase. So this is going to really dictate, that current customer investment. How much are we investing in loyalty and cross-selling? It's a great report.
And Logan, I just want to address something quickly that we're seeing in the chat. People are asking if they can apply either demand option to government, universities, or nonprofit.
Yeah, it's going to depend. So, I think some of these will be more like demand generation. Like if it's a university, it's probably a little bit more demand gen, but targeting people who are already in market. So I think you probably have a little bit of both.
Great, thank you.
All right. So once we have those items, whether you are demand gen or demand capture, what the customer lifetime value is, we start to come up with recommendations on the levels of investment for awareness, consideration, conversion, and loyalty. Here would be like a search based, like a demand capture business where we have a really high investment in consideration. So this would be like your shopping, performance max, search campaigns, targeting non-branded search. We'd have a medium amount of ad spend, relative ad spend in conversion, should be showing for your brand name or showing for any kind of like pre-purchase remarketing across Google or Meta. We'd have relatively focused small amounts of ad spend in awareness, which would be like push marketing campaigns to cold audiences, across YouTube, display, Meta, and then, depending on the loyalty factor, it could be small or it could be large. If this were a demand capture type of merchant or type of store, it would be sort of flipped, where we'd have the most ad spend in awareness, and not nearly as much in consideration. So just those inherent factors of who you are and how your customers find you really kind of informs the investment strategy across the marketing cycle. All right, and then we kind of wrap this up all together in our marketing activities report. So every campaign that we launch is tagged as either awareness, consideration, conversion, or loyalty. And then we're able to aggregate those results. We're able to look at it across all of our paid channels, what the spend is, what the revenue is, the ROAS is, and then dive into each individual campaign to understand its relative performance. So this is again like a great tool to help like balance budgets across all these different channels and just take a look at what the performance is in a single snapshot. All right, and then finally, we do have more advanced budgeting tools. So we just talked about our playbooks and how our clients' customers behave, and and once we kind of get that initial budget down, there are more advanced ways to refine it, like media mix modeling. So this is where we use regressive modeling to correlate how a dollar of ad spend in various channels or campaign types correlates to site-wide revenue or revenue from your various points of sale. And the idea is to kind of like weigh the relative importance of each channel so we can then balance the budgets across them. So this is something that kind of is an answer to some of the attribution problems that Caitlin was talking about earlier, where it's like Meta is taking credit for a purchase and Google is taking credit for a purchase, and it becomes very murky. Well, how do you like really tell which channel is more important? And media mix modeling is a way that doesn't rely on cookies or anything like that that could be impacted by privacy. It's regressive modeling. It's based on mathematics, so it's a really good way to kind of have like a more mathematical view on the importance of these channels. All right, so next we're going to talk about privacy. We talked about this a little bit. How is this impacting things in terms of tracking and 1P data? So let's talk about tracking first. We just talked about some of the pitfalls here of, privacy laws. And, one of the big things is that these platforms like Google Ads and Meta are not sending as much data to the reporting anymore. They're not getting as much conversion data. So one of the ways to ensure that you're getting as much data as possible is number one, on Google Ads to make sure you have enhanced conversion tracking installed. So this is going to send user data in a sort of anonymous hashed method to Google to kind of avoid some of the newer privacy law, not avoid, but to sort of get around some of the newer privacy laws. So you're still able to send data from the ads to the platform and get the most conversion tracking data possible. It's also extrapolating and kind of doing some estimated conversions as well when they know that certain circumstances are in play where someone is almost always making a conversion. So you're kind of getting a little bit of an estimation there. And then CAPI, so the conversions API for Meta is really vitally important. So this is taking data directly from your server and sending it to Meta, kind of like circumventing the browser. And this is going to just give Meta more data, more conversion data. And both of these enhanced tracking methods are going to just give the algorithms more conversion data, which we know like the AI and the algos, they need that data to function. So these are both a must in terms of your tracking.
I would highlight and underscore and bold that, Logan. If I was thinking of any New Year's resolution I could do in my accounts right now, this is where I would start and say, everybody, write number 1 and 2 down, go check on those conversion tracking actions, run a couple of tests if you haven't in a while. Google is sometimes really bad in particular about letting you know when something isn't working like it used to, especially if the conversions are going down but are not absent, then you might not get that alert. So I would just make that a part of your New Year's hygiene. Go in there into all of your accounts, no matter the platform, and check on those conversion actions. It's just a great place to start. And yeah, it's just so critical to the AI. We see that in so many of the AI campaigns, like even Performance Max, especially conversion goes down or changes. All of a sudden, like everything is out the window. Your placements are changing, products are, it can just cause so much. So just wanted to highlight that this is where I would start.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Laura. It's so vital and yeah, sometimes harder to detect if it's not working properly these days. And we have a full tracking team. So if you end up working with us, we have a team that will, install all these pixels and tags for you and ensure they're firing properly and monitor them on a regular basis, which is very nice. Great. So now we'll talk about quickly first-party data. So with this sort of loss of fidelity, with the ability to like third-party cookies, they're kind of still here with Google, but I think they probably eventually will go away. But there is this emphasis on leveraging your first-party data in the ads. So a few different ways to do that. Number one, just collecting emails through your lead magnets, loyalty programs, gated content, giving people some sort of benefit for in exchange for that email address. And then I think one of the more important things is once you have this big list, you want to segment it based on the value of these customers. So it's not just one big black hole. You should be segmenting like your VIP customers, your lapsed customers, maybe several groups in between there to assign like a relative value to them. And then you can upload those segmented lists to ad platforms like Google or Meta that support customer data uploads and use them in a bunch of different ways. Some of the ways we've outlined here is targeting lookalike audiences in Google and Meta to fuel new customer acquisition. So, this is a great opportunity to upload a list of like VIPs and say, hey, like go after people that look like this. You can target existing customers explicitly for either cross-sell or replenishment opportunities. So this is like a great loyalty play, targeting these lists overtly. Or you can exclude existing customers in specific campaigns. So let's say you have like an awareness type of campaign, but you have a really high lifetime value and you want to keep your current customers from seeing all these ads and keep the acquisition costs a little bit lower. You can exclude with existing customers from those campaign types. There's plenty of other ideas as well, but those are some of the top ones that we use at Actionable. Now I'll pass it over to Caitlin to talk about AI-powered campaigns in Meta, and Laura will talk about them in Google.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, let's dive into more about AI and the powered campaigns in Meta and Google. So first up, we'll take a look at Advantage Plus Shopping. So like I said, this campaign has been a pretty big game changer for Meta when it came out in 2022. And there's a lot of questions around it and a lot of uncertainties around it because you're giving up your targeting of typically when you looked at Facebook advertising back when, in the 2020 and whatnot, you were doing a lot of manual targeting, whereas with ASC Plus, what you're seeing now is you don't have that manual targeting. So now it's up to figuring out, okay, how do I utilize AI powered machine learning through Meta to drive more efficient revenue? And so the two common pitfalls I see over and over again is first one being not defining your audience. Second one is not testing creative. So those are two of the big pitfalls that we see, and we'll talk more about how do you maximize that. But with that, when you do maximize those two pitfalls, and you are continuously having that thought process of testing and learning with creative, we've seen pretty significant decrease in cost per acquisition with utilizing Advantage Plus Shopping campaign compared to that of like a business as usual campaign. So I think on average it's about a 32% decrease, which is a pretty substantial decrease when you're looking at things. And we'll take a look at a case study that really shows this difference in cost per acquisition in a second. So if we go on to the first pitfall that we see, and that's audience segmentation. With audience segmentation, what you see is, give me 1 second to bring that back up. Click back to, there we go. So first thing is you want to segment your audiences. So this is a newer feature from Advantage Plus Shopping campaign. When you first, launched with the Advantage Plus Shopping campaign, it was completely just targeting whoever. So one thing that you want to do is you want to go in and define your audiences. So there's new audience, which of course, as you guys know, that's completely cold user. You have your engaged audience, which is any user that has been to the site but hasn't made a purchase, and then your existing customers. And that's your past purchasers. So you want to make sure you go into your ad account settings within your business manager of Meta and define these audiences so that you get this robust breakdown of performance from your campaign. So the key benefits to audience segmentation is data-driven insights. So like I said, this example, you can see the breakdown of how much spend is being allocated to this audience, what kind of revenue are we seeing. So it really just opens up an opportunity for you to really dive into more data-driven decisions, not only through your audience targeting with your business as usual campaigns, but also your creative targeting. Second benefit with audience segmentation is minimizing your wasted spend. So with making sure that you see where your spend is going with these different audiences, you can then manipulate how much spend you are allocating to those audiences on other campaigns. So it's just a nice reminder of making sure you're not overlapping audience targeting with any evergreen campaigns outside of your Advantage Plus Shopping campaign. Then the last key benefit is increasing efficiency. So combining both of these data-driven insights plus minimizing your wasted ad spend results in seeing that nice increase in efficiencies. And like we said, back to that first slide, is 32% decrease in cost per acquisition. So definitely a big thing here moving forward is define your audience in your ad account so that you can see that breakdown and make those decisions based on the other campaigns you have running in your account. So if we go on to the next one, so another pretty common pitfall that we see is creative. And that's something that you see with a lot a lot of clients when they're coming here of understanding what kind of ad content works well for my audiences. And as you know, with social media, ad content is what drives those clicks. So it's super, super important that you have a creative strategy in place to be able to deploy that with Advantage Plus shopping campaign. So I have it broken down here into 3 different segments that I really like to look at. So the first part of the creative strategy starts with identifying your content and messaging strategy. So the first thing you want to do is figure out who are your personas. Who is making those purchases of your products or a specific category? From there, you want to map it out to your modalities. So we understand that every buyer has a different decision in why they're making a purchase. And we have those are broken down into modalities. And we have a full playbook of modalities and the tactics that we can take with each modality to help with your messaging and your content. Once you have that figured out, you have your segments, you're mapping them out to modalities. Next thing is understanding what kind of format you want to utilize for your ads. Static, carousel, collection, video, animation. There's so many different formats that you can test out, and make sure that you're diversifying your formats. You don't want to put all static images in your Advantage Plus shopping campaign. Diversify. Do a few static images, carousel, a video, and see how it performs. Last thing here with creative is test. Always have that mindset of test and learn, and regularly analyze performance. Look at the audience segment breakdown. Look at what creative is resonating with those audiences, and ideate off of that. You don't always have to create a new concept with creative on the creative that you see that's working well. Figure out the different aspects of that creative and then ideate off of that. So biggest takeaway with creative with Advantage Plus shopping campaign is that even though you don't have the opportunity to do manual targeting with Advantage Plus shopping campaign, you do have targeting capabilities through your content and through your messaging that you're delivering in that campaign. So making sure that you have a creative strategy that is robust, and is always in that mindset of test and learn, you'll see much better performance with your Advantage Plus shopping campaign. So here's a case study I want to call out. One of our clients, Solly Baby. So one thing here is they really looked at and really leaned into manual targeting. And when I say manual targeting for awareness, that means like utilizing those interests on Meta, the behaviors, the demographics. What we saw with that was it was pretty efficient for them when it was just manual targeting with a return on ad spend of 350%. That was before Advantage Plus shopping campaigns really came about. When ASC Plus came out in 2022, started to test it out in the account and ran it alongside those interest-based targeting audiences that we had seen historically perform really well in their account. When we looked at things side by side, what we saw is a pretty stark difference. So you can see here with their Advantage Plus shopping campaign, their ROAS was at 600%. CPA was cut in half. CPA for the manual targeting campaigns, $24, whereas CPA for Advantage Plus shopping campaigns was $12. We even saw, a huge increase in efficiency. So biggest thing here is, like I had already mentioned, is test and learn. Test out Advantage Plus shopping campaign. Test it against your manual targeting that you've done in your account that you may have seen has performed well with your return on ad spend. But looking at it against your Advantage Plus shopping campaign may show that that the Advantage Plus shopping campaign has a much lower cost per acquisition, and more efficient revenue for your brand.
Real quickly, Caitlin, we
Yep.
have a question. By testing creatives, do you mean A/B testing or running different formats to see how they perform?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So one thing that we've really developed more of is a different testing format than typically what you think of A/B testing. So with ASC Plus campaign, we found that when you put in all your creatives, you can't monitor how much budget's going to each creative. which takes away from that A/B testing mentality that we've always known, where you isolate your variable. So one thing that we've done is created an ASC plus testing campaign versus an ASC plus scaling campaign. And you test out creatives that are all pretty similar in your ASC plus testing campaign, figure out the winner, scale it to your scaling campaign. And that's one tactic that we've taken with scaling and testing out creative. The other one is you can utilize that A/B testing format where you isolate a variable and test it out just like you would any other function. So those are kind of the two different routes that we've taken. But again, test, test, test. I think always leading with a curious mind with creative is going to really drive better performance for your brand.
Staying curious and maximizing creative are totally the themes, I think, of 2025. That's what's iterated with Performance Max. I'm going to give you some tips on what to look for with Performance Max. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, there is a lot of enhancements and improvements that are giving us those visibilities to make the right decisions. And even in a campaign type where there aren't all of the same manual levers that we had with standard shopping, there are so many things that we can do and now we can see. And some of the things that we didn't have visibility into before, like visibility into ad placements, is something that we have now. And this is really where you want to consider the goal of your campaign, what its intention is, and review that creative and those assets that you've placed into Performance Max. You want to make sure that you're setting it up for success from the beginning. I'd say one of the biggest things we see is we have a campaign that is maximizing, let's just say, e-commerce conversions and sales, but all of that ad spend is going to display and video. And the budget is just not aligned with the intention of that campaign. So you really want to read that data, look underneath the hood and say, okay, is my money going to its intention? Am I receiving what I was looking to get out of this campaign? That really falls into, again, A/B testing, maximizing what you're putting into the campaign, reviewing that performance, and continuing to test. And at Agile, I think the next slide here, we have visuals that help to bring those to life. And the slide right before this, we have a nice color-coded breakdown of those placements. So you can see on the left-hand side, it gives us that breakdown. But these are things that you have access to within Performance Max. It just might take you a little bit longer to get there. We've simplified it, which helps us in the specialist view and also helps when we're going into reporting. But on the next slide, we'll look at our assets. And this is what I just want everyone to focus on for 1 minute, because this is, I think, probably the most underrated new capability of Performance Max, and someplace we really haven't spent as much time as we probably should be. And that's with these assets. As Caitlin was talking about, A/B testing those creatives is so critical. And let's just think 6 months ago, we would load our creatives into Performance Max. We would get like a best, average, or poor rating from PMax, and that's all it was. Now we're getting asset level performance data. If you haven't seen it already, go into your Google account, go to Performance Max, go to your campaign, open your asset groups, click on the table icon, and you should be able to see actual conversion and performance data of that asset. At Agile, we released this beautiful new report, which I love because it helps us quickly identify areas where we can scale those assets. And then we can pair that with Google and say, okay, we're seeing that portrait imagery, this was a new size, is really successful in terms of conversions. I could see at a flash glance from this report that one of my asset groups only has one portrait image, and I should focus on scaling that. Based on that data that I'm now able to see in PMax, paired with quick visuals where you're seeing where you can maximize those, time is the best thing that we can save, and pairing that with understanding and reading that data is just so critical. So if there's one thing I would advise, it's really to stay on top of what those new enhancers are from Google, and on Performance Max, taking those assets even more seriously and going into the actual campaigns, increasing those assets, A/B testing that creative. This is probably the best lever you have within those asset groups to align that AI to make those right decisions. So we're pairing that asset group with all the right images, all of the video, the text, and any other assets we need that align with our message and our goal. We're giving it the right audiences, right? Because we've paired that with that 1P data. We've uploaded a fresh customer match list. We've checked our tracking off for this year and said, yep, that conversion tracking is right on. And to really set up for success right off the bat to say, I have given this platform everything I need to make the right decision to my goal. And I'm also armed with the ability to read that data so I can speak to what is actually happening underneath the hood of this campaign. So for Performance Max in particular, especially, can't highlight enough the importance of maximizing those assets this year.
Laura, just for time's sake, I'd love to touch on one of our case studies and then move forward because we have so many questions.
Oh, I know. And I could talk PMAX all day. So if you love PMAX as much as me, let's connect on LinkedIn. I know a couple of you, especially my Grand Rapids folks, let's make sure we're connecting after this. The case study is really cool. It's near and dear to my heart as a Jeep owner. Jurassic Park Jeep's probably my most favorite vehicle I've ever owned. But this was a really fun challenge with this client to maximize a really ambitious 10x goal. The one great opportunity has been Power Pair with Google, which is pairing Broad Match with Performance Max. So what we did was we aligned strategy of a Broad Match campaign and aligned a Performance Max campaign where we had the assets, the text, the video, the imagery that really highlighted specific Jeep parts aligned in an asset group. And the goal was to arm Google with every possible combination it could need to get in front of the right consumer for that conversion with the right messaging at the right time. You can see on the next slide, we did it. We really crushed it. We saw an increase in conversions on Broad Match at 216%, and PMAX really shined with an increase of conversions at 30% and revenue. But this really, at the core, highlights how well it works to have aligned messaging and just giving Google the right ammo to make the right decision.
Thank you so much, Laura. So we're going to launch a poll quickly. We're going to run this poll for the duration of the remainder of the webinar. I see a ton of questions in the chat. Let's see, William Chen, if 80 to 90% of spend of PMAX should be on shopping, should we still spend so much time and effort to highly optimize images and videos in asset set? Thanks.
Yeah, I would say, so I'm just understanding here, if 89% of PMAX should be on shopping, this is where you should really be evaluating the goal of your campaign, and don't undervalue the ability to have multiple Performance Max campaigns and arming those campaigns and asset groups with the right assets that make sense for it. There's still such great attribution that we see in so many different touch points between the very first touch point that a consumer has and finally converting, let's say, through a product listing ad. And that's the beauty of Performance Max. That was something we didn't have in just, say, a siloed standard shopping campaign. But again, focus on the goal of your campaign. Make sure you have a feed tethered if you need a feed tethered, and that you're aligning that asset group with the messaging, the images, and the video that are aligned with your goal.
Thanks, Laura. We also have another really interesting question from earlier from William Chen. If my site offers different products or categories, how can we ensure the ASC targets the right audience that need product A and not B?
Yep, another great question, something I hear about all the time. And my biggest recommendation there is utilizing different ASC Plus campaigns. I wouldn't say do extreme amount of like 5 to 6, but 2 or 3 different Advantage Plus shopping campaigns where you can isolate your creative based on a specific category or product does make sense. I think the other question would be to really think about is the types of products and categories that you do want to push on Meta. Because sometimes when we think about it, we want to push a specific category, but does it make sense? Will it drive demand? So just taking a step back and looking at your segments and segmenting out your audiences and making sure you're giving them the right product or category is also necessary.
Thanks, Caitlin. Logan?
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to just plug this audit. We're asking if you're interested in. So this would be mainly if you're spending 5,000 or more per month in either Meta or Google, and you want an audit conducted by either myself or Laura or Caitlin. We created these audits. They're very extensive. They give you a lot of information. It would likely be one of us presenting them to you on the call. So if you like what you heard today and want to hear more, want to understand if your account is adhering to our playbooks and best practices and methodologies, I would definitely click yes, I'm interested. If by any chance you've already clicked no, but you may have been persuaded just now, you can drop your email into the chat and we'll reach out to you. But it's definitely worthwhile if you're spending 5K or more in any of these channels.
Thank you. We've got another, actually, I have an older question or comment. Last click attribution is definitely limiting our impact, but our clients can't do any other modeling. Then they're skeptical of the dashboard reported conversions. Feels hard to prove our impact sometimes. Anyone want to comment on Morgan's comment about last click attribution?
Sorry, I was just typing a response. I'm just looking for it again. So, oh yeah, here it is. Limiting impact. Our clients can't do any other modeling. So I think the best thing to do when you don't have modeling or a more advanced like multi-touch attribution tool is to just look at the different attribution models. Um, I think definitely looking at last click is important, but I'm always very interested in seeing first click. It's like, what is the entrance to the website? Is it coming from Google? It's coming from social channels, coming from organic search. Like that's, that first touch point is really important and might give you hints as to where you want to invest more of your marketing budget or more marketing tactics. So first click is definitely really important to look at. And then if there's any sort of data-driven attribution, whether it be in Google Analytics or Google Ads. I think data-driven is something you can trust sometimes, and but I think if you're not using advanced modeling, then looking at all the attribution models kind of in tandem and seeing how they change across the different views is probably the best way to go about it and like triangulate where you want to put more effort.
Thanks, Logan. And then finally, we've got a really interesting question from Lisa. We've only done advertising on Amazon so far, but we have 4 months of data spending over 5K in ads and have sold close to 2,500 units of our hero product. Would your team be able to help us with the recommendations for how we should set up Google Ads using what we've learned about the keywords people are using to buy our products?
Yeah, so I can answer that or at least go first. We generally see a higher conversion rate in Amazon for basically any keyword or search term. So keep that in mind that, you could probably take what's working in Amazon and start to test it in Google Ads. So you're probably going to get a lower conversion rate because you don't have, maybe that easy ecosystem like Amazon has and the, prime shipping, stuff like that. Like all those things are going to impact the conversion rate. Sometimes the conversion rate drop off from your .com compared to Amazon is not very much. Sometimes it's a lot. So I would tread carefully, but just build on what's working on Amazon. Look at those search query reports, those successful keywords, and start from there.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I'd say also consider your goal of bringing users to your website as well outside of just the products that you're advertising on Google, because that's where it can be a great opportunity. We've seen that for clients who were selling like one item on Amazon and the fees were just getting ridiculous. And it was just like one client would, the customer, excuse me, would purchase the product once and they were gone. And then they wanted to really look at subscription modeling. And so that's where we introduced their website and we're, getting customers over at a competitive rate for that product to their site. So consider the goal, but yeah, we're happy to chat more about that. Reach out. We can do the same. Would love to go into that. But congrats on your success with Amazon too. That's really exciting.
We've got another question from Chriselle. Our company is just getting started with Meta ads. We do not have media buying experience in-house. Do you recommend hiring an outside company or getting a full-time in-house person? That's a tough question.
Yeah, that's a tough question because there's a lot of factors to take into play in terms of in-house of what you can do. I will say with an ad agency, what you see with us is that you'll get that full funnel approach. You'll get creative strategists of someone really leading your content strategy and helping you develop that content strategy. I think the other thing that's really great that we have is the expertise across the wide variety of verticals. So we get a lot of best practices and understanding what's happening in one vertical that we could test out in this vertical. So I think there's a lot of value in working with a partner that has that expertise to really get you to a point that you can really grow and scale your Meta ad account.
Thank you, Caitlin.
I would
Um,
add on, I'd say, Logan, what would we do without our Google partners? The amount
Yeah.
of times a week that we really test the limits of our partnership. But that's one of the biggest, I think, advantages too, is that quick connect. And we also get some really cool betas and opportunities ahead of the pack.
Yeah, we asked them for a lot, but they always deliver, which is nice.
awesome. Should we move into just connecting the dots now?
Yeah, I can bring us home here. So just summarizing what we said, the biggest thing, whether you're using like a little bit of AI powered campaigns or a lot, is you have to get the tracking and attribution right. So we talked about enhanced conversions, CAPI, ideally using some sort of media mix modeling or multi-touch attribution, or if not, like we said, just compare the attribution models and start to triangulate and figure out which one is going to work for you. Number two, optimize the cross-channel budgets. So again, this is where attribution can help, but also having a tagging system like we have, where we're looking at kind of apples to apples campaign types across the channels, saying like, how are the awareness campaigns doing in Google and Meta, and which ones deserve more budget and which ones deserve less budget. But also thinking about how your customers behave, how often they buy from you. Is it worth it to have a higher acquisition cost, knowing that you're going to make that money back down the road on purchase 2 and purchase 3? That could happen, 3, 6, 12 months into the future. And then number 3, um, nail those AI powered campaigns that we were talking about, Advantage Plus, Performance Max. Those are the campaigns that, whether you're a big fan of them or not, they probably have to be a part of your marketing mix. And like really learning how they interact with the existing legacy campaigns in these platforms and balancing the budgets between the two are really vital. So taking the tips that Caitlin and Laura presented today, taking that testing mindset, uploading all those assets and creatives to Performance Max, all these things are going to help, and then using the more advanced reporting to figure out what's working best in those campaigns. It's going to serve you well in 2025 and beyond.
Thank you so much, Logan. I do see one more question. I just want to get to everyone's questions and address all the questions. Bean asks, when creating lookalike audiences, which data source would you recommend using? Pixel, Conversions, API, or Shopify? I think this will be our last question. Take it away, team.
So for on the Meta side, I would say definitely utilize a high custom audience. So instead of doing like all site visitors, you want to do something where it's like purchase X amount over X time frame, and utilizing a very high value custom audience with your pixel data. You can also utilize your email data as well. So I think it just goes back to test and learn, try out different high value custom audiences with your data that you're pulling in from the Pixel and Conversions API.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you so much to everyone that attended. I want to remind you that the recording for this webinar will be sent, the slides will be sent, And before you leave, don't forget to hit that poll question. Thank you so, so, so much. Thank you. Look at all that love in the chat.
Everyone,
This was so fun. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And if
Thanks,
we
Bye.
did
everyone.
your questions, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to help. I know Laura offered up her LinkedIn, but
Yes.
we have a contact form on our website. So if there was a question that we weren't able to get to or that I somehow missed, please feel free to reach out to us. All right. Thank you so much.
you.
Bye, team.
Bye.